The evolving digital landscape is driven by artificial intelligence, automation, and a shift toward more intuitive user experiences. Now, central to this transformation are concerns about data privacy. We talk about security and the need for inclusive also accessible design. Now, developers face major challenges from building seamless architectures, like our previous guest said, to securing applications against rising cyber risks. And front-end engineers must also design for African realities, older devices, low bandwidth, and unstable networks, which are, of course, challenges for them while also maintaining performance. So, as technology advances, the next generation of front-end development is expected to focus on smarter automation, deeper personalization, stronger security frameworks, and universal accessibility, defining what truly constitutes the new digital phase of technology. So to help us understand what new phase of technology will be stepping in Africa and of course across the globe, I'm joined by Charles Orafu, who is a mobile app engineer. Charles, thank you so much for joining us to talk about this.
Good morning, and thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So we hear about the new digital phase of technology. What does it mean in today's world and reality?
Yeah, the new digital phase of technology is that of AI, right? Because most banks are now trying to build apps that are similar to what fintech does. Fintech is a game changer. Right. I remember when I was trying to use a banking app to make transfer. That was so many years ago. In less than 30 seconds, I had a session timeout. I had to log back on to that app before I was able to make a transfer. I made the transaction to be very fast in less than 30 seconds. But if with the user with fintech, we are able to use apps like OP, apps like PalmPay that has seamless instant payment. I can make a transfer and it happens in less than 5 seconds. And even if I spend more time on the application, they try as much as possible to use a feature called a refresh token that would help me to be on the application, perform transactions seamlessly, and also improve my experience. So fintech has been a game changer in the financial sector.
So, Charles, everybody keeps talking about the banking industry when it comes to AI integration. Is it only that particular sector? Are there other areas that you believe that AI can actually improve on operations and seamless transactions? Even talk about the informal sector too.
Yeah, absolutely. AI can help detect fraud. Yes. Artificial intelligence can spot suspicious transactions, and they don't just detect it after a few minutes. Instant. There are apps that we use day to day that has embedded some artificial intelligence feature on that app so that it detects frauds instantly. Also, credit scoring. Before I'm able to get loan from banks, I must have a very good banking record or bank history. But AI can help banks get the best credit scoring, because that's what fintech use. What they do before they give loan to a particular user, they check the transaction history of that user and say, okay, if this user is spending over 5 million naira in a month, it can now, with that AI, the AI will be able to determine how much this user is eligible to even apply for loan for. So AI is helping with fraud detection and also proper credit scoring, even without the use of banking. Yes.
So this would actually mean that AI-powered automation systems actually cut across every sphere of human endeavor. And this actually brings me to the question around, or to the issue around data privacy for users and security when it comes to building trust within, this new digital experience landscape. How important is that?
It's key, right? And in order to come up with a very scalable and secured application, most companies, fintech, banks, they use features like tokenization, whereby they protect sensitive user data they ensure that this user data is not open to the public, that anybody can gain access to it and use it the wrong way. They tokenize it, encrypt it to something that is not readable. Yeah, it's a way of ensuring that an application is secured. Also, there's an end-to-end encryption for every request. You encrypt that request before sending to a network. And when the network gets that request, they also encrypt the response before sending back. So there's a proper end-to-end encryption across the network.
You actually speak of how safe, using AI tools, of course, are. But then I like to find out, because we know that developers would definitely build codes, create codes, and build programs if it hopes to ensure that these platforms are safe, are seamless. So what are the biggest challenges that developers usually face when it comes to ensuring that these AI tools available to users are actually efficient, are actually safe, and are actually good for use?
A major issue is internet connectivity. So most applications now, they now try as much as possible to ensure that even with a very low network, right, or very low internet, that their users, their customers have access to financial services. They implement features like offline mode, features like USSD that you don't need an internet to even make use of it. Then when it's back to the network, they can implement features like an auto sync when they are connected back to the internet. Also, cloud infrastructure. High traffic can crash systems, right? And if you don't have the right tool for your server, it might cause chaos. So most applications, most banks, fintech, they try as possible to use servers like AWS that offer a very good service that is reliable, and also Microsoft Azure and the others. So it's best to use the right tools for cloud infrastructure and also cater for issues with poor internet connectivity for their users.
All right, so I'd like to also find out what security considerations should front-end developers prioritize as we embrace this new digital era?
Yeah, security concerns, they should prioritize more of encryption, right? The web, the mobile, you don't expose user data to anyone. Even when you are displaying it on the app, they have access to it. There should be no way that user or a fraudster is going or is re-engineering that app and seeing all of this data as a fly. No, there need to be lots of encryption and end-to-end encryption. And also, there's what we call refresh token. Most applications use it. That's why if you check apps like PalmPay, OPay, you are logging on that app for days, except you implement features like auto login after 5 minutes. But there's a refresh token feature that refreshes that before one token expires, they make an API call to get a new token that would make the user to be on that, still be on that app and transact. Now, that is both good and it's best for security, because if my phone gets lost, for example, I don't worry, because I know in less than 5, 6, 7 seconds, 7 minutes, that app will log back out, so the user can't gain access to it. And lastly, biometrics is of great importance, and it's unique for each user. So they should implement features like biometrics so that they can do like a two-factor verification for users that want to perform high transactions, right, and ensure that the right person is making the right transaction, not the fraudster.
Okay, so you just reminded me of other issues as regards security, data mining, algorithm bias, and data breach. Now, when we have these issues, are there regulations to guard against? Do we have regulators who actually monitor the systems to ensure that there are no infractions between the providers of these services and the end users?
Exactly. In terms of compliance, and there are lots of agencies that reach out to fintech banks and ensure that they are sticking and they are adhering to their rules and regulations in terms of implementations like AML, anti-money laundering, KYC, know your customer. They ensure that each user, before they transact on the app for, let's say, large amounts, we know who these users are, and subsequent time, if their valid ID expires, we notify them, restrict them from having access to these features, and ensure that they upload the right ID before making transactions. This regulate they are all over the place. They ensure that the users are safe, and the fintech and banks themselves, that there is trust between a customer and the provider.
Okay, so we see that many African users operate on older devices on stable networks, and we can understand why, of course, in this part of the world where finances are limited and penetration is actually low. So how do front-end developers help these users to still, of course, make do with these platforms for use, for transactions, and all other issues without being totally constrained?
Yes, there are lots of features. Even if I don't have, financial inclusion is part of it. If I don't have a browsing phone, I can use just the button phone to transact, to make payments. That's how seamless it is. With the use of USSD implementation, banks now have it. For example, GT Bank with *737, I can make transactions, I can get airtime even without making use of my browsing phone. So it's very important, and I like the fact that they are considering users that don't even have access to internet connectivity. That's really, really awesome.
Well, it's quite nice to see that front-end developers are probably taking a step ahead to look at these issues, troubleshoot the challenges, and provide solutions to them for users across board, whether in the banking industry, day-to-day transactions for SMEs and people in other areas, even those who are underbanked in underserved areas, to actually, be part of this financial movement and scale the hurdle. We hope that this will continue for the growth and the future of African business and, of course, economy. Now, Charles Orafu, mobile app engineer, it was nice talking to you at this time. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts with us.
Thank you for having me.